I mean, I think the main thing I would try to avoid for us is, and I don't think we really get this with, VCs so much because they have, 10-year funds and whatnot, but
Sure.
we're not looking for short-term quick exit return, right?
Okay.
We're looking for people who are committed for the big win. And we have a very aggressive plan to build out and grow the organization. And if we're successful, that should deliver, amazing returns for investors. But we don't want to optimize like prematurely for an exit. We want to optimize for solving the problem. And we think that doing so will allow us to build the best and the biggest company.
I see.
And give the best return. But the order of operations is quite different there. And so to give an example in Japan, like traditionally, especially at our stage, it's like, oh, okay, right. So like next stage is like, IPO, whatever your IPO plans, whatever things. And it's very straight up, like, I don't care about IPO, right?
And interesting.
Like we may IPO. It's a very likely, route that we would take as a form of liquidation. But like the goal is not to IPO. And I think traditionally in Japan, a lot of startups and a lot of investors traditionally have been grooming startups for IPOs, right? Building this IPO machine, figuring out how to do it. But when the goal becomes to IPO, then you're optimizing for something that's different than solving your main problem and scaling as fast as possible. So if the fastest way for us to grow and the best way for us to fundraise is going to be to IPO, then we do it, right? But it's
I see.
And it's not a goal or something that we strive for.
I see. But so it seems like hearing what you're saying right now, there is no plan for very like soon IPO for Zehitomo.
I don't care. Like,
I see.
We don't have like, this is the date and we have to do it by then. We have company milestones and business objectives, and we want to grow as fast as possible to solve the problem in Japan as fast as possible.
I
To
see.
deliver that more business to all the small businesses and freelancers around Japan as fast as possible. And if the fastest way to do that means that we should go public and build trust and raise funds, then we'll do that at that time. But that's rushing to kind of do a small IPO is going to I don't see that as the fastest way for us to solve our problem.
What's the bad point about going public at a small valuation? So I think the typical kind of a startup, maybe not right now, but I think maybe like 5 years ago, is that you get some amount of money from the angel investors first, and then you get some amount of money from VCs. Maybe Series A, B, C, and then maybe at Series D you don't actually have a VC that can put money there. Or you may, have an investor actually rushing you to actually go public, and then you go public around 100 mil to, $200 million, going at the Mazars, a stock exchange in Japan. And the issue that people love talk is that, there's not a lot of growth potential with Japanese ventures because they go public at 200 and then they kind of, go around there. Do you see that issue in Japan and you don't want to be that? Is that the thing you were saying right now?
The biggest thing that we've learned the last few years doing Zehitomo is focus, right?
Focus.
We have to focus on only the thing to 10x. And anything else that we're spending time or energy on is distracting us from our primary focus. And it is hence hindering our growth. And so undergoing the IPO process requires a lot of time and energy.
That is true.
It requires building in a lot of compliance and structure that is, honestly, a lot of it may be kind of counterintuitive or counterproductive to how we our current values, right? And valuing the kind of creativity and the freedom and the problem solving that we need in order to kind of grow 10x each year. The idea of setting very strict kind of targets for our revenue and making sure that we hit it within a very thin threshold. To us, that's like the values don't align with what we're doing right now. In 2 years, it may make sense, right? Or in X years, like it may make sense like next week. It may make sense in, many years. It like just right now for us to grow at the fastest possible clip, it seems to be more of a distraction than a value add. And you're right. Yeah. The majority of companies that join Mothers are down year on year. Right. And don't grow because the goal becomes to be the exit, becomes the IPO. And so
Jordan, I agree with you on having a focus is a very important thing. I think that's really the a very important thing for startup. But at the same time, what I've kind of felt looking at a lot of Japanese companies here, they go public not only for financial return, but also for trust, right? And I think you kind of realize that doing business in here, especially if you're doing like marketplace, like Mercari, or if you're providing B2B business here, going public, because you have to go through that compliance process, you can get enormous amount of trust. And I think this is a very unique thing in Japan. So for example, Wanted, I think they went public around $200 million. It's a human introduction recruiting company. And, it was very important for them to have that kind of legitimacy from the market and also, from the stock exchange. For Zehitomo, because it's, mass consumer marketplace, wouldn't you think like, going public in Japan would give more, like legitimacy to you? Or are you not actually thinking of going public in Japan, maybe other markets?
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, right? I think it's like building trust and building legitimacy. If that's what we're solving for, that's a very important thing to solve for, right? Especially in a marketplace, trust is kind of the foundation of what we do, and how we bring transparency there. But is the fastest way for us to build that trust to go public? I don't know, right? And I think if we could have, 10 times the number of reviews on our platform, or we could go public, I would take 10 times the number of reviews, right? We could have 10 times the number of professionals signed up so we have more transparency and awareness, I would take that. If we could have 10 times, more amount of demand that we're kind of, consumers that were connecting to the professionals, I would take that. I would take 10x most things over going public right now. And if going public was the fastest way to achieve that 10x, but I think right now having more actual business on the platform for the professionals is going to trust, because it's more business they can connect with. For the for the consumers, having more professionals and having more reviews and having more of that information is a faster way to build trust. And I think in Japan traditionally, like we're a listed company, hence you can trust us. I think it's actually becoming less relevant over time. I think we can build trust by saying, hey, we have great investors. We have Mizuho and SMBC. We have very trustworthy brands that have joined us. Or if the company does nationwide TV commercials, or does a small IPO that no one's ever heard of, right? Like we can build like more kind of trust and credibility. So I think to me it's like a nice to have part of going public.
I see. Interesting. Okay. But that also means that you have venture capital firm that understand your growth story and that can bear with maybe like later exit.
Either way, yeah, we have a fiscal responsibility to provide liquidity, right?
Absolutely.
For investors, for our employees, all of our employees, on equity, and obviously we want that to be the best possible, event for everybody. That's many like IPO is not the only way to do that. M&A is not the only way to do that, right? We can do later stage financing. We could open up other different kind of pools for buybacks. We can do a lot of different things to allow people to start to have liquidity and to meet our kind of responsibilities. But if we're focused on growth, I think that's the best way that we can actually meet those meet those responsibilities and expectations from investors and give the actual best possible return.
I see.
By growing.